happens. It's about planning for when. Join us for Plan for When, Building Real Cyber Resilience with Bob Schlotfelt. Bob is an experienced cybersecurity leader and former CISO who has spent years helping organizations prepare for real-world cyber risk. In this conversation, we will talk about what it takes to keep a business moving when an incident happens, how leaders should prepare before a crisis, and why true resilience is about more than just technology. This is a practical discussion for anyone responsible for protecting their organization and responding when things go wrong. Welcome to the APT and Cybersecurity LinkedIn Live event. Well, hey everyone, my name is Aaron Stillwell, and welcome to the APT and Cybersecurity LinkedIn Live event. Everyone, I'd like to welcome Bob. Thank you so much Bob for joining us today. Can everyone see us? There we go. Bob, thank you so much, and I'd like to introduce Alex Mavro, my co-host. And today we have a really cool topic today. We're going to be talking about Plan for When, Building Real Cyber Resilience. And Bob, you have a great history. You're former U.S. Navy. You're a security leader. You have more than 20 years of experience. You've done everything from healthcare, financial services, IT services, privacy, compliance, enterprise risk. You kind of have the kind of all-in-one to kind of talk about this topic. But Bob, let's kind of start off a little bit, and can you share a little bit about your background and the work you've been doing today, and kind of what led you to focus on cyber resilience?
Background would be back at the, we'll just say, this all sound pretty old. I was with in Pasadena, Parsons, and the CTO pointed to me and said, "Hey, we need it's you." And so there started my cyber career. Before that, so I came up the cybersecurity world through operations and infrastructure, not through the application side. Moving forward, I've been with financial services firms, healthcare. It seems like throughout my career, I get where I brought into an organization that needs to build from scratch. Either they didn't have an actual security unit, or they needed to rebuild the one that they had because of a merger or acquisition or something. So I've been in that position before. One of the things I find throughout my career, regardless of the industry, and some of us will debate whether is there much difference in cybersecurity between healthcare and financial services. And I was with a large automotive manufacturer with them, or call center company. No, it doesn't matter. They don't care. They care about the data. They don't care about healthcare data, financial data.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's all about resilience. Resilient. Look at one of the metrics I'll look at is time to recovery happen. How quickly can we business? Because at the end of the day, we have to do business for the organizations that we work for, our client, if we're in a contracting role. So the resilience piece is there, and it's a matter of looking at how quickly can you recover. And looking back to my infrastructure days, it's like backup recovery. How quick have we said backup and recovery? So
yeah,
the key to the data piece of it is a team around considered 100% certainty. And I had
and
five
we'll definitely cover that too.
With what certainty we want.
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to look at that as well. So, but it's the key to backup and recovery, and it's a business driver. Been in many organizations where cyber, we can make it really, really secure, but the business screams. Or we can make it less secure, but then we run the risk of loss.
And that's actually a good question I was going to ask you is, when did you kind of realize in your career that cyber resilience has to be a business issue and not just a security issue?
I realized it mostly in the care space, because of health in California, I was with them for a while, before they merged with
Yep.
Providence. Here in Phoenix with Valleywise Health, a hospital is open 24/7. Most people in the IT world work 24/7 if you've got a SOC and a NOC, and et cetera. But you have to look at what's the impact, not just from a patient safety perspective. And so
Yeah.
systems are down. It could impact lives.
Oh yeah, especially in
The
healthcare.
nursing staffs and the doctors, they're busy. They're busy. So simple things like extending the time period that a nurse to re-authenticate on a workstation to her full shift rather than every 4 hours. That 4 hour peak might be with patient care, and they got to turn on up now to stop and re-authenticate. Everybody just continue doing my work.
Yeah.
No issue. And then hospital system as well. As much as people like to think that hospitals have tremendous margins and great profitability, they run a pretty thin margin. Yes,
Yeah.
there's high costs for medical care, but you're dealing with about an issue, and I had it recently with my own wife here at the hospital. All the people involved, they all get a salary, and so it isn't cheap. And there's a lot of specialty components involved. So look at the revenue stream. And I've worked with revenue cycle people, and it's like, what's our impact if we're down for a day or half a day? What's the impact? Because not only is it financial, but it's patient safety. If a system, everybody has to revert to paper charting, everybody has to revert to doing things manually, and we all get so reliant on systems. I've heard of school systems recently. They took the analog clocks out of the schools because the kids can't read them anymore. What's with that?
I mean, come on now.
Read the clock on the wall.
It's a clock.
It's
okay?
not digital.
Come on.
Read the clock on the wall.
I know it's not on your. I know it's not a. I know it's not on your iPhone, but come on, you could do it.
Exactly, and it's like I got a degree in mathematics, and professors always tell us you got to show your work. You can't just give me the answer. You got to show your work.
Yeah.
Same thing. We had an incident at the hospital where we had to go back to resilience and business continuity. They had to go to paper. It was part of an exercise, but nobody knew how to do a paper chart. They were all reliant on the system. So if Epic or Cerner or whatever your system is down, it's like, and they didn't know what to do. And that's when the chief medical officer jumps up and down. It's like, all right, we need to go back to training here. We need to.
You got to have some.
And then you
backup.
Yeah, and you think about like a fudge ripple ice cream. You think about now we're adding AI to it. We're going to stir that in here. And AI tools are great. I love them. I'm educated in lots of them. But again, show your work. Show the work.
Oh,
remember the
I think we're probably going to be talking
I've got
about
a million
AI.
cliches.
We'll probably be talking about AI soon enough.
We beat it to death for about 3 or 4
Oh my gosh!
years.
Every conversation we've been to is about AI. I think me and Alex at the point we're like, oh my gosh, I think we're done talking about AI.
Yeah, and Alex, I don't want.
Well, Bob, actually, what I wanted.
You've been around security a long time. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, Alex. No, I was going to ask you. So, Bob, you've kind of written a lot about plan for the if, right? Basically, but you need not to plan for the if, but you got to plan for the when, right? I should have said that backwards. What changed in your career that made that kind of mindset so important?
Too many times I would be involved in actual incidents.
Yeah.
Military, like cybersecurity, train. Hopefully we never have to, but you do. So too many times I've been in organizations where we have what's small and large, and people are just scrambling. They're looking everywhere for data, looking everywhere for where was the log generated from. Let's hunt down where the infection is, and the certainty issue. We need to go back to those fundamentals, have some certainty as to what's there. A security operations center, you've got analysts and engineers sitting sitting there watching the light on and off, little nuance that pops through, whether it be from the SIM or the network or whatever threat intelligence you've got going. And if it happens, they don't the ability sometimes to quickly go to the cause.
Yes.
So they don't know where to. So like I mentioned with the paper chart, looking around you. And whenever it's like a healthcare incident, you want people to have the information, not to have to look around and go, what do I do? They know where it's at. There it is. There's the fire extinguisher on the wall. Grab it.
That's actually a good point. I was going to say, my next question was kind of, what is the goal to keep kind of an incident from becoming a catastrophe? You know, what does it actually look like in the first few hours of a real event?
To me, the goal is, and it keys back to, we talked earlier about resilience, where knowing where things are at, practicing, the process. Teams hate it. Alex, you had it with Teams. You've been in our annual desktop exercise, to go through things.
It reminds me about the part
God,
of the recovery test or disaster recovery.
Yeah. And I told teams, I said, I want to do that, not annually, monthly, because when the real thing happens, you got to know what to do. Again, and anybody who's ever been served in any military in any country for that matter, it's all about quick action force. It's all about when something happens, you act quick. If you're on a ship, and I was Navy, so if you're on a ship, aviator Navy, but if you're on a ship and there's a fire, you can't be scrambling to figure out how to go find what you need to get to put a fire. The guys have to. There's an issue on the flight deck. You got to handle it quickly. They're handling a lot of fuel and munitions and big moving aircraft. Don't get in the way. So everybody has to know what to do. And so the practice part, some of the times you want to look at it where we carve out time in our day. We've got day-to-day operations, keeping the lights on. You've got a certain amount of time for administrative stuff and training or whatever. But then also practice what's our core abilities. Practice those. Hey, we had a cyber hit on this environment or this app. This if it's tiered and hey, we got a couple of tier 1 applications that went. The vendor tripped on something. We've all seen major vendors who have endpoint who are nameless at this point. They trip on things and things go down. Okay,
you could say
it impacts your business. It impacts so.
You could say CrowdStrike. It's okay. You could say CrowdStrike. It was
okay. I didn't want to. I know those guys. I like them a lot. I don't want to throw them under the bus.
No, they're great. We know a lot of people.
Yeah,
they're a fantastic product. No, but if it's public information, we could say it.
It's to me when it happened. Since we're giving CrowdStrike, when it happened, the first thing I thought is that wasn't the failure of the CrowdStrike product because it's great for change management.
Exactly.
And so, coming up through operation, I was also a service manager at an organization. I had head of security and service management. And back to the resiliency piece. So, out of the CMDB, keep it that accurate. I'm a great high proponent of a strong change management. And they're all, if you think about a lot of things in IT, it's like throw the ball, hit the ball, catch the ball.
Yep. So, Bob, let's talk about you used the phrase 100% certainty before, and I definitely want to ask about that.
Yes,
in the context of resilience, what does that kind of mean to you?
This up some time ago, and I've used it before. My last team, I explained it to them. They looked at me like I was crazy. But the idea of 100% certainty, if you get hit by any kind of cyber incident, outage, attack, virus, ransomware, whatever, again, hunting it down and finding it. So my theme with team, and here's our ongoing mantra, with 100% certainty underlying, I want to know the perimeter of my network. What's my outer perimeter? what devices are on it, how they're configured, who's on it, what they're doing.
Yeah.
With 100% certainty. Now, look at, and my last organization, we had a head of service management. She was amazing. She had ServiceNow tuned like a fine watch. And the CMDB, we were working on that. It's like, if with 100% certainty, we don't know where everything is at, how it's configured, how do we react quickly to that? And so, again, it goes back to fundamentals. You mentioned, I'd written an article on this LinkedIn month and a half ago. Teams don't look at that. They're too busy. Hey, this product can do this. This product can do that, and we get buried in our tool set.
Yes.
I don't want to have one tool
tools.
set. Obviously, you want to diversify, but you also want to have tools that are effective. And I've got friends of mine that work over that big company up in Washington State. Oh, I can use names again. Microsoft. Somebody made a comment that
are you talking about that little company called Microsoft, right, Alex?
No comment.
Yeah, we've all used and still use Microsoft Excel. Great tool, but
yeah, of course,
their theme is that most people use about 5% of its capabilities.
Yeah.
Well,
I
if
agree.
I'm spending $500,000 or something different security tools, I don't want to use their capabilities. So,
Bob, that's actually a
let's
great
keep
point.
the tool set lean, but use it all.
And you're paying a lot of money for those
Yeah.
5%. That's the whole thing.
And also, we've talked to so many people. You have limited staff with a huge amount of tools, and then you're using 5% of that tool set. How do you utilize the tools you have to basically augment, to make the jobs of your people easier and better? And really, that's what it should all be about.
Yeah, and the limited staff piece, and I learned years ago, when I mentioned I worked for Parsons, I worked for Parsons because I was a pro employee, pro services employee, because they had the IT services contract for them. And then I was another with Pro, KB Home, the home builder, and I was service management and security. But you got to look at the capabilities of all the tools you've got. And one of the things we looked at on resource hacking and resource management was, and I mentioned before, if you've got somebody who on your team, small team, like in my last shop, I had one guy dedicated to keeping CrowdStrike running. But I didn't want him to make that an 8-hour job. I needed to make it a 6-hour job because I needed you to have time to do other things, including cross-training, representing us in projects, et cetera, and learning more about the tool. Because he came to me once and said, hey, I want to go get the CrowdStrike whatever certifications, like, do it. Because the more you know about that tool and can teach others, the better benefit of us.
The more will help you.
Utilize that tool. We're spending X hundred thousands of dollars on whatever tool we bought. Look at SIM technologies. I grew up in the day of site, so I'm older. And you have a dedicated team of things to utilize the capabilities there. I mean, ArcSight, and those are the earliest versions of AI out there. What do you think the correlation engine was for? It grabbed data, looked for anomalies, and hey, I've seen this before. That's what an AI model does, right? So when we talk about AI,
Bob, talk about the gold mine of having a Splunk guy who knows what he's doing. I'm sorry, Bob.
Or ArcSight, or any of the bigger SIMs.
Oh yeah. I know. I want to actually hand off the questions to Alex.
Anyway, so
Bob, when you look at today's threat environment, what has changed most for defenders? Attacker speed, industrialized exploitation, identity abuse, third-party exposure, or something else?
Oh, goodness, that's a loaded question. If I look back at the traffic that we saw and where the attack surface was coming from, and I'll relate it to the last couple of organizations, big hospital system, big relative term, big in Arizona, not big nationally, 3 hospitals, not 50 like some have. Um, it's the user base and the identity side, because identities can be spoofed. Was with a company where identities were spoofed, and the bad guy was actually in the person's email and being able to manipulate data and send information to clients and hey, we need to change these routing numbers for your payment because we changed banks and we didn't see it happen. So identity was the big one, more and more so in again, California. I was with a company, Lacera. They managed the pension fund for Los Angeles County, big fund, $80 billion, a lot of money.
Wow.
Within the system and within the hospital system, look at, there's so many third parties. We had 200 plus applications. We didn't do development. Well, they didn't do any development, but they're all third parties. And so the idea that the third party risk management, looking at those third parties, keeping those in tow, because if an Epic or Cerner or any of the other technologies that you use within a system, they get compromised, network, and they have access to your network. So there's a east-west traffic that can get in. OT device is a big one. I can't put a endpoint protection like a CrowdStrike on an infusion pump. It's got access to the network because we're monitoring, using it for monitoring. You know, the nurses have their WOWs, workstation on wheels, they run around the hospital with. They're live wireless devices running around with full access to drugs and medication and the patient record, and you know, a lot of that data. And the wrong click, the wrong connection. You know, a lot of the third parties that we had, they had access to their devices from the outside, so they could update, firmware and software, and the vulnerabilities just escalate from there.
One question over here, in order for our audience to understand, hostels are based on OT, correct? OT devices, I mean.
IoT devices?
Yeah.
Yes. We had, and we did a survey internally and with a couple other hospital systems. There's we had 4,500 users. I had between 5 to 7 IoT devices in the hospital. These are devices I can't monitor with a CrowdStrike. And so you've got to look at other traffic. I mean, that's where lately I've been looking at, I've employed it a few times in the past, and I looking at the zero trust models. You look at a zero trust architecture where I'm looking at east-west traffic. I'm looking at all network anomalies. Care about your device. If I can push my zero access to the perimeter, and we'll just say company X, we can create company X cloud, and we've got the security. Then anything that comes in or out, I'm watching it. I don't care if it's got CrowdStrike on it or not. The third-party vendors who are trying to update software, we can see that. A lot of hospital systems and organizations now, they like the use of USB devices. We've all got our iron key that's got everything on it.
That's not bad. Yeah,
it's right here. My whole career is right here. Iron keys. And then we found a couple of IoT devices where the vendor had a USB inside the box that was used to hold firmware. And so we're blocking that because we recognize it as a USB stick.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, so those threats are there. And again, it's just a matter of watching them where they're at, and like I said, certainly know what it is and how.
If a vulnerability exploitation is now such a major entry point, how should organizations rethink patching, asset inventory, and even exposure management?
This is a debate I had many times with infrastructure managers who were responsible for the patching and vulnerability management side. Work with your security teams, patch as aggressively, but again,
Yeah.
this is where IT departments have always struggled around the financing side. I want to build a redundant network. I want to build we've got a lot of organizations you're going to have development, staging, production. I want to have a mirror of production where we get patches, give them some time. Obviously, if you get a patch that comes through like what happened years ago, we got a patch this weekend because it's going to hit the vulnerability is going to be in the wild on Monday, and we got to get it taken care of.
Yeah.
You're always
I
going to have
suppose on the
80,
OT
20 rule
devices
where-
is different. Is different part of the patching, correct?
Yes, because it's not controlled by us.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot
This
of
is what
times an
I
IoT
know.
device, if you, GE is another a big medical monitoring devices, infusion pump, etc., and they manage them from the outside. They want network connectivities to do patching, so you got to have some pretty tight controls around that, and a schedule. There's rarely an opportunity or rarely an occurrence where they have to do an emergency patch on an infusion pump, or some of those. Some of them, yes, you got to take it. So around the patching side itself, from a normal server network environment, have an environment where you can test patches and move them, and then again back to change management.
I see. Then it's awful sometimes. Sometimes it's good, but it depends on when you act, when you apply, if it's convenient at that time, because sometimes you can't. Please.
Yeah. And Alex, I think in your role, in your previous role as a CISO, and Aaron, you've maybe even counted this too. I certainly have. Did we lose connectivity? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Your video stopped a little bit, but we can still hear your audio.
Yeah, my screens are white, so I'll just keep talking.
Your audio is coming in. Your audio is coming in fine. Yeah, there you go.
Now I'm back.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Residential connectivity. Anyway, point I was going to make with you've got patching, you've got change management, you've got the 100% certies. One of the things that I think is probably a third of the responsibility of the CISO is the relationships they build with all these other departments and divisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Because if I've got an opportunity coming up where they said, hey, we might want you back in the office. I'm like, yeah, let's go. I'm looking forward to it. I want to be able to go get coffee and run to the head of the department that I'm working with and chat with them for a few minutes. I want to be able to go down the hall.
Different chemistry when they are together.
Let's go to lunch. Because from a security perspective, sometimes they're going to come along. It's like, hey, we had an audit recently and we ran into this, and this. Let's try to get these things fixed before I have to present it to the board. And I don't want to throw you under the bus, but your name's on the list.
Bob, that's a great point.
Relationships,
because
relationships with developers are so key to our job done.
And Bob, I was going to say that. I was going to say, like, the relationships over a Zoom meeting, are not the same as in person.
No.
And building that relationship and having that understanding, it's just not the same.
You're absolutely right. I had a conversation with a CISO last week, and yes, it was an interview, and we're interviewing each other for that matter. And I mentioned to him, I said, I would gather more intelligence the 10 minutes before and after a meeting than the meeting, because we've all been in meetings in conference rooms, and the meeting breaks and everybody goes their different way, and 2 or 3 people will hang behind and just chit chat about whatever, and that's where the little nuggets come out, where it's like, oh yeah, okay, we got to work with that. And again, back to the relationships. Manager or your a lot of the organizations now have some call it field CISO, some call it customer security managers or customer executives. They're there to bridge that relationship. And if you can get to know people, and you like your own team, get to know all of your people, depending on your team. I had 15 at Valleywise, and I knew all of them. I knew their wives' names, I knew their kids' names, I knew, one was involved in soccer, one was involved in softball. It's the relationships. When you have that relationship with another executive or another leader, and you call them up and say, "Hey, Bill, we got a big release coming down. It's patching. How's your team working on this? Can we help you? Let me help you." Quoting a movie, "Help me help you." That goes so much further if you've got that relationship already established up front, not just a Zoom call.
Yeah, that's true.
Or a Teams call or WebEx, or pick one.
Bob, you mentioned earlier about AI. Where do you see AI changing the resilience conversation? Is it making attackers faster, defenders better, or both?
I think better, because we were all like, where are we with AI? Who's going to control it? And a good friend of mine, well, I hope he's a good friend of mine. He's a CISO at an organization out in Texas. He took it from the other direction. He said, "I'm going to own AI. Security's owning it." He announced the organization, "We own it," because he wants to control it. Now, if AI is used properly, I know that one organization I'm working with, they brought it in-house. They built their own AI. You don't go use Gemini. You don't go use, Copilot. You go use X. And I have the name of it here, but I'll leave that out of the conversation. You're letting their employees use it. They're letting their staffs use it. In a lot of organizations, and we're cyber people, I'd be on a call with somebody, and I was being on a call with one of the other executives. "Hey, did you hear about this so-and-so incident?" I'm like, maybe I hadn't heard about it yet. I can only read so much at a time. But you can turn around and go, da-da-da-da-da, and you get this great briefing on it really quick. And you can share that right away, including your own expertise. So I think from a cybersecurity perspective, it's going to help improve what we do, because we're going to have like a SIM looking at a correlation engine, we're going to have greater access to data. I thought from a hospital perspective, and it's already out there, so I lost my $1 billion idea. The person who built the language library with all the articles from the New England and Cambridge Journals of Medicine is going to win, because doctors and nurses can query those things quickly and get every answer in the world. AI in the medical world, it's a slippery slope, because yes, it's medical decisions. Yes, sir.
So Bob, I was going to ask you, what is the name? There is an AI software, I know. There just had, I know I was on Ground News, and it just had an article about the doctors using this AI platform, and like 60 or 70% of the doctors are now using this platform to work with. Do you remember the name of that? I could look it up, but I forget the name. But it was very popular.
I don't remember the name. But again, this is one of those things. To Gemini real quick, ask that question again in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So one of the things that last place, hospital system, we're also teaching hospital and station with medical officer, because we were talking about AI and where.
Yeah, I could still hear your. I could still hear your audio though.
Not moving. Okay. And comment to me, he said AI is a goal, but he wanted to turn around to the residents and the students and said, like my theme with math should work, don't use AI to do your coursework. We all learned it from reading the and back to relationships. I'm right with our general counsel. We worked with everybody a lot, mostly, and she would have me now and then. We'd sit there in conversations about, I'm going to play opposing counsel, role play. And my comment to her, once I hired an MD, he didn't hire an AI. It'd be come down on real tight, where if you're using anything that's AI generated, which storage, get a vast amount of knowledge quick flipping through journals or talking to the next attending down the road. But you got to disclose it that AI was used to generation, this diagnosis, this prognosis, this plan of patient care. That anything AI, I use AI to look at. I told you I had my whole life on this iron key right here. I dropped it into one of the AI models to write me a book. It's a great book, but I got to read every sentence because is it really what I would say? So
That's actually a
yes,
great,
AI
I love
will
that idea.
improve our lives. Well, it's articles I've written, articles friends have written that are in the public
Yeah.
space that I've captured because I've referenced them before, used it before. I mentioned Ross Perot years. He said something to us once at a meeting years and years ago when he was still talking with the staffs. Later in his career, he was kind of hold of. In the business world, it's called best practices. If somebody's done it before and it's in public domain, use it again.
Yeah.
Why recreate the wheel? And because his thing was, if something has been done before and I can use it, I'll give him credit. Sure. Hey, off of so-and-so's blog. Sure. But it's worth repeating. My 100% certainty theme, I got to look back, but I picked that up about 8 years ago, and I was thrown it out on LinkedIn or something. I went, I love that theme.
Yeah.
And I called him and said, hey, I want to use it.
That's awesome. So Bob,
AI is it's going to make us a lot.
I was going to say,
What is mine?
kind of one of your recent posts, you describe cyber resilience. You do, I guess, through these three practical ideas. You talked about the safety net, the blast shield, and the muscle memory, backup segmentation, and drills. Starting with the safety net, what makes, I guess, a backup strategy truly resilient against something like ransomware?
A couple of things that come to mind with ransomware. You have to you identify it, find out when it was first introduced into your enterprise, and if you've got a good resiliency strategy, ransom infection or contain it, and then restore it to the previous day where you're still clean. So the key to there is limiting the blast rate. Find it as quick as you can. I sometimes I feel like I'm repeating myself, but this goes back to having where everything's at so you can find it quickly. If the more time you spend looking for things, and I recall back to, oh my goodness, it's probably about 8 years ago now. Emotet, one of the virus around. I was working for an organization. We were still we had Semantic, Trend, and McAfee all in the same shop because we had still merging in environments together. Anyway, Emotet was one of the original. It would move around, but it would change itself. So the signature base of find and contain didn't work. And so you had to go to other, so even more so, the idea finding it quickly, containing it, and then kind of like, if you think about if you've ever been skeet shooting or actually shooting, you got to lead your target. And so you got to try to lead the target.
So, Bob, you kind of talked about, I guess, on the blast shield side. You used on the blast shield side, you used the example of segmentation, like compartments, like in a submarine. What does good segmentation look like in a real enterprise?
In a real enterprise segmentation, if you think about, and again, I'll go back to a hospital system. You've got if you're doing it right, you've got your applications, your applications classified. So you've got your tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 applications, whatever you're calling it. The big applications are going to be, if you're a big medical shop, it's going to be Epic or Cerner or whatever the records management platform is. That's a tier 1 application. The other tier 1 applications are the ones that are critical to your business. So if you can segment those where there's using like the zero trust model or that you looked at, where you can limit the ability to anybody there. And so using that model with a tight access control where it's, if you think about the old need to know model that we've all grew up with. Not everybody should have access, so you limit your access control model up front is got too many organizations, and I'm not going to name them because I'm going to embarrass them. If you have 4,000 users, you can't have access profiles. It's not manageable. So limit those if you could set it up. And I think one of my recent posts around this same topic, I had an infographic where medical records was not accessible to the internet. It was only accessible from the inside. And then you had good controls on that inside access, big applications, because again, they looking at patient safety first. If you look at patient safety and you never want to have get a call from one of the medical staff, nurse or a doctor saying, I was working on this patient, we needed an answer right away, and the system crashed. And we found out it was ransomware. I don't know if any of you ever watched there's a TV series on recently called The Pit. And a great show.
What is it about?
And the way they said The Pit, it's a medical, and each episode, an hour of time in the emergency.
Okay.
But they had a whole season where we had ransomware, everything was down. So they're doing everything manually. And so I was sitting watching this like it. And so, but the idea of resiliency and segmenting, and even there's Elicity is one of them that I've touched on recently. They're doing a great job of microsegmentation. So you're taking your tier 1 application, them off. And so really tight control. Obviously, don't impede the business. No. You want to make sure the business still does business, but you want to keep those things protected. So if you get an infected, a virtual coming in, they're not going to get to that room at all.
Yeah.
Bob, because we have talked earlier about leadership, zero trust, defensive intelligence, I have a few questions over here. You have talked about translating technical risk into business language. What does that look like in practice?
Yes. Oh, good. Again, I guess if you're talking to senior leadership, you're simply have enough technical chops to understand. We're looking at firewalls and endpoint protection, and you talk about those things, and they understand it. You get to the CFO level or a chief operating officer or CEO, you want to be able to put it in very basic terms. So the talent that's needed for a CISO or a technical leader, and sometimes a technical leader is less technical because they're in that world. You want to be able to explain things, we'll just say a more elementary level. And so use diagrams, use analogies, use examples. When I talk about using what we just talked about with microsegmentation, I think about, okay, you built a house, you've got great walls, you've got great doors, you've got great windows. Internally, you're going to put your crown jewels in the pantry, in the kitchen, and it takes 3 doors to get there. And so if you explain it in that regard, it's like, okay, we're going to put you in the middle of the room and we're going to have multiple ways to get there. Great example came up a couple years ago now. Unfortunately, the for United Healthcare tragically gunned down in the streets. I had this conversation with my CEO, worried. And I thought about it, right? Like, well, no, you're head of a healthcare system, not a healthcare insurer. So they're looking at it. And it's like there's 1-2 hard key doors before you can get to your office, to the executive suite. And one of them physical guard that is checking badges. And so we have that. So if you think about microsegmentation, explaining that same thing to a CEO, it's like we're putting applications 3 card key doors in. So if we get attacked from the outside, it's going to take a lot of effort for them to get through door, get to that system.
Yeah.
And so when you can explain things in that level to, otherwise the board of directors are all elected. Not saying that they're lesser people, they're all tremendous. One of them used to be our general counsel, he was a great guy. We explain those things to him and to them, then they understand, oh, okay, so, and one of them even says like, so it's like my house. If I'm in the middle of my house, it's harder for an intruder to get in all the way to me. Exactly.
Yeah. Because we have spoken earlier about zero trust. How does this governance shape resilience? It is about architecture, decision discipline, identity, data protection, or operating model around all of it.
Ooh, that one. Trust, going identifying the perimeter, and again, it's all about access, because zero trust, a lot of people don't look at the full acronym in what is it, ZTNA, so zero trust network access. So it's about access. So you want to look at going away from the traditional VPNs. You want to have tighter controls. Your IAM system, identity access management system you're using, is going to be key for user profiles, but then identify perimeter that you're trying to protect. How do they get into it? The microsegmentation of the applications within. And so unless an application must talk to another, then make sure they don't. I think it was our friends over at Netscope. They're the first ones that looked at, and Gartner coined the phrase about secure access service edge. So previous organization, we created the cloud, the company's cloud. So everything was in. I was fortunate enough to allow me to turn on persistent connection. So you turn on your laptop, you're on our network. That's it. You got to authenticate, you're on our network. You're not going through your own ISP and coming in. You're going directly to us. And then you're looking at that. And then also things that get overlooked, DLP. You have to have a good data-centric solution where you're going to looking at data. The best DLPs out there are going to be looking at, if you're having internal encryption, they're equipped with that to be able to encrypt and decrypt. And I'm going to beat a dead horse for a minute, but going back to access management and the CMDB, you got to have a strong identity of where everything is and what it is and how it's configured. Conversations about CMD building in all those changes in the change management process. You're making a change, the CMDB record's updated at the same time. Not after the fact when the change is successful, because hopefully 99% of your changes are successful anyway. But those things are important because the resilience piece falls back to the security operations teams being able to react quickly and know the right answer and where to get it right away.
So Bob, we're actually at 12:51 and we only got 9 minutes. So what I'd like to do is kind of ask you some final kind of practical advice for people that are kind of watching this, right? And then also, if you have anything, I'm going to leave some room in the end. If you have anything you'd like to promote, anything you're doing, we would love to hear it. So when we send this out.
Sure.
So the first question is, say for a mid-sized organization that wants to kind of be serious about cyber resilience, what are the kind of the first 3 moves you would recommend for that size?
Look at your foundation. So back to the foundation of a CMBB, look at your asset inventory. Get to a point where you are 100% certain you know what it is and where it's at. So I've been with organizations where you've got, a couple thousand or more servers out there. Know what they're all doing, know how they're all configured, when their latest patches were. Don't fall behind on any of that information, because something will come in scrambling again. And if the scrambling, looking for information during an incident, inherent panic is where things fail. Practice, practice, practice. Again, my military analogy, practice, 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 because when it comes to time, you need to be able to do it right and do it right the first time.
Yeah. So my second question would be, what should security leaders stop doing because it creates the appearance of readiness, but is not kind of real resilience?
Oh, goodness. What they should stop doing? Over enamored by trying to find budget and trying to find the latest new tool that does things. Look at your existing tool set and try to get the most out of them. My analogy earlier about using 5% of Excel, use 100% of it, or 80% or more.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great tools that many of us have purchased over our time, over our careers. Look for redundancies, look for over the ones that just, we can do it with this tool to a certain degree, then why pay for both? So you're going to save money, and then you're also going to be able to hone the skills of your team a little bit better. Trust in your team. I've met too many of my colleagues. I love them, trust them, respect them, but they're in too deep. If you're a CISO and you're running an organization and you've got, 15, 20 or more people, I've met CISOs that have teams of 900 and teams
Wow.
with 5. And I've been in both places. Trust your team. All these guys are hungry. All these girls are hungry. They want to learn. They want to trust. Let them, when you're building their time out, their 8-hour day, or if you're working 410s, whatever their time is, give a couple hours in there to train, to play. If there's a sandbox, you can play. Just learn something new. Go out there and give a loose goal. If you learn something new, go find something new, go learn something new. You'd be surprised what they can find. I'm partnered with an organization. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to say we're good friends with a woman named Tammy Klotz, I know, that I've worked with before. And she wrote a book, Managing or Building with Empathy. And she talks about how to manage with empathy. Yes. And honestly, it's absolutely beautiful listening to how she is with her employees and how much care she has with them and how well they respond to that. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And it's just a different level of just being a boss, but understanding what's important to them.
Yeah, and I think you understand, where I did, like the team I had at ValleyWise, the team I built at Lacera, the team I had at Alorica, the call center company. You get to know them, the relationships with the people, like I said, I knew their wives, I knew their kids' names, I knew what they like to do.
Yeah.
And I worked with that, and not from a work standpoint, but when they had an issue, I understood. Hey, I need to go to a career day. I need to go to a parent-teacher conference. Yeah, okay, cool. I had one of my guys, his wife was going to have a baby. Hey, I need to take 3 weeks off, 4 weeks off after the baby's born. It's like, do you really want to? He goes, what do you mean? I said, you work from home already. You're going to be at home with your wife. Yeah. I don't care what time of day you work.
Yeah.
If you don't want to blow through your vacation or your leave time with that, let's work it out. The team will work with you. We all worked it out. And afterward, he was like, that was so much less stressful because I could just pop in and pop out when I needed. And I said, and we got Teams, we got WebEx, I got a cell phone, hey, I need to step away for a couple hours. Yeah, go.
Yeah.
And I think early in my career, the one that I did that had the most impact with my team, and everybody knew it, we had a big release coming up. A couple of 2 or 3 of the guys, this is when I was doing data center operations, we're going to have to work over the weekend. We've all been there. And we had the meeting, set the plan in motion. I looked at the 2 guys and I said, all right, so next week, which day do you want, Monday or Friday? Like, what do you mean? Day off. Which day do you want? Or Friday? I'm giving you a 3-day weekend. Oh, I don't have PTO for that. I'm not talking PTO. I, just as a director, I can give you the time off. It's between me and you. It's not in the books. Just that little bit of it didn't cost me anything. Just that little bit goes so far with the team because they know, oh, Bob's got our back.
Of course.
That
it
happened
shows
once,
that you
and
care.
another time.
I was saying it
A
shows that
live
you care for
incident.
them.
It's a live incident. Yeah, I had a live incident. I had my lead engineer. He's digging in, doing all the work. The CIO calls me. It's like, hey, I need to talk with Bill. Why? Well, he knows the details. Yes, and he's giving them to me, and I'm giving them to you. I need to talk to Bill.
Yeah.
He's working right now. You work with me. I work with him. He's working. I don't want to take him off of his task at hand to talk to you when he could be finding what he needs to find.
Yeah.
Trust me, I'm on touch with him. We find it, you're going to be the first one to know. But he's working. And I got in a little bit of a relationship rub with my CIO over that one, but afterward he understood. He goes, all right, I get it. I said, how would it be if the CEO reached over you and came to me? He goes, oh, we wouldn't allow that. Same thing. He's working.
Yeah. So, Bob, we only
And
have,
those kind of things-
let me see. Well, I was going to say, Bob, we only have 2 minutes left, so I definitely want to give you enough time to talk about anything you're working on, anything you're doing, anything you want to promote. Like I said, me and Alex would love to hear it.
I'm working on 2 things. I'm working on kind of refining my zero trust architecture model because I've got admittedly some opportunities in that area that might be fruitful. And I think there's a lot of things going forward. A couple organizations here locally, Phoenix has become what they call the Silicon Desert. We're actually becoming the data center capital of the world.
Oh,
Biggest
yeah,
chip manufacturers are moving to Phoenix,
Yep.
putting all the pieces around it. That, and then there's another firm, and I'll use their name, Patriot Consulting. They're out in California. They're a Microsoft MVP shop. Joe Stalker is the owner and CEO. Joe and I are like to say good friends. He asked me to be on his board about 3-4 years ago. Provides great security operations as a service. He's got a lot of good things going on. If you're a small organization, say under a couple hundred people, and you need good security, I'd love to introduce you to them and bridge that gap because he's a great guy. And I'm on no cost helping out, but it's one of those things where he's found the secret in a lot of things that people don't see, configurations problems that teams are so enamored looking at, they miss them, and so they'll work on that. So it's another great thing to look at, and so that's another connection I'd love to make with people.
Awesome. Well, we are at exactly 1 o'clock. Bob, thank you so much for your time. It is great to speak. I don't
Absolutely.
think we've actually had anybody else here on talk about healthcare, and I know we could probably do a million or more of these and talk about different topics because this is very important today. But I want to thank you so much for your time discussing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
After I get
it
my
was a pleasure speaking with
trust
you.
honed down, maybe we'll talk again and focus on that.
Okay. That's fantastic. Alex, thank you so much for joining, like
Thank you,
always.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
And Bob, just if you want to stay on just for 1 second, and I'll just close it real quick, and we
Sure.
can just talk a little bit afterwards.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.